Imagine a man who has never committed a crime, who smiles at his neighbors, and who follows every rule society has ever written. You feel safe around him. You trust him. But what if I told you that this good man is far more dangerous than the criminal lurking in the shadows? We are taught from birth that goodness is a shield, a moral compass that keeps the world from descending into chaos. Yet history and psychology whisper a much darker truth. The most horrific atrocities ever committed were not carried out by people who thought they were evil. They were executed by those who were absolutely certain they were good. There is a hidden architecture to the human psyche that we rarely dare to examine. We prefer the comfort of binary labels, hero and villain, saint and sinner. But these labels are a trap. The person who believes they are incapable of darkness is the one most likely to be consumed by it, because they have no reason to watch their own shadow. As we peel back the layers of the good person archetype, we find something unsettling beneath the surface, a reservoir of repressed impulses waiting for a righteous excuse to overflow. You might think you know yourself, but by the end of this journey, you will realize that your own goodness might be the most deceptive mask you've ever worn. There is a final secret about the nature of virtue that most people will never understand, a realization that changes how you look at every kind face you meet. But we must first understand the anatomy of the mask. The danger begins with the concept of the shadow. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, famously noted that no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Most people spend their entire lives pruning their branches, trying to look as heavenly as possible, while completely ignoring the rot in their roots. When you strive to be a good person, you aren't actually deleting your capacity for malice. You are simply pushing it into the basement of your subconscious. This is the art of repression. The more you identify with your light, the denser and more volatile your shadow becomes. The good person is often just someone who lacks the courage to be bad, or more accurately, someone who hasn't been given a socially acceptable reason to be cruel yet. Think of the nice guy or the selfless martyr. Their identity is built on the foundation of their own perceived virtue. This creates a psychological debt. Because they are so good, they believe the world owes them something. When the world fails to pay up, that repressed resentment begins to ferment. It turns into a quiet, poisonous entitlement. This is why the most explosive outbursts often come from the quietest people. They haven't integrated their aggression, they've only hidden it. And a weapon you don't acknowledge you're carrying is the one most likely to go off by accident. This brings us to the phenomenon of moral licensing. This is a cognitive bias where, because we have done something good, we give ourselves subconscious permission to be bad later. It's the reason why the CEO who donates millions to charity might feel entitled to mistreat his employees behind closed doors. His goodness has become a currency he uses to buy back his right to be a tyrant. In his mind, the scales are balanced. He isn't a villain, he's just collecting what he's earned. This is the first hint of the ultimate truth we are approaching. Virtue is often used as a cloak for the very vices it claims to oppose. But the danger scales up when we move from the individual to the collective. When a group of good people gathers under a single banner of righteousness, the individual shadow merges into a collective one. This is where the most terrifying chapters of human history are written. Consider the concept of the true believer. When you are convinced that you are on the side of absolute light, anyone who disagrees with you is not just wrong, they are an obstacle to progress, or worse, an embodiment of evil. This moral certainty provides a psychological hall pass for cruelty. If you believe you are saving the world, there is no limit to the violence you can justify. The Spanish Inquisition, the various purges of the 20th century, the witch hunts, none of these were started by people who wanted to be bad. They were started by people who wanted to purify the world. They were good people doing the right thing. This is the paradox. Evil requires the cooperation of the virtuous. A truly evil person can only do so much damage on their own, but give 1,000 good people a righteous cause, and they will build the gallows with a clear conscience. We see this play out in the Milgram experiment, where ordinary, good citizens were willing to deliver what they thought were lethal electric shocks to a stranger, simply because an authority figure told them it was for the benefit of science. They weren't sadists, they were just obedient. They were good students of the system. Their goodness was exactly what made them dangerous because it overrode their empathy. They outsourced their morality to a higher power, believing that as long as they followed the rules, they remained blameless. This leads us to a chilling realization about the nature of modern society. We are currently living in an era of hyper-performative virtue. Social media has turned goodness into a status symbol, a way to signal one's tribal loyalty. But when virtue becomes a performance, it loses its soul. It becomes a tool for social dominance. We see this in the moral grandstander, the person who uses moral talk to enhance their own prestige. They aren't interested in helping. They are interested in being seen as the kind of person who helps. This person is dangerous because they will sacrifice anyone on the altar of public opinion to maintain their image. They don't have a moral compass. They have a weather vane that points towards whatever the crowd considers good at that moment. We are nearing the center of the labyrinth now. You might be wondering, if the good are dangerous, then who can we trust? The answer lies in a distinction that most people fail to make, the difference between being harmless and being virtuous. Most people who are called good are actually just harmless. They are like rabbits. They don't bite, not because they choose not to, but because they have no teeth. But a rabbit isn't moral. It's just a rabbit. True virtue requires the capacity to destroy and the conscious choice to restrain it. The most dangerous person is the one who believes they have no teeth, because when life pushes them into a corner, when they lose their job, their partner, or their status, they will suddenly discover their fangs, and they won't know how to use them with any control. They will lash out with a blind, desperate cruelty that shocks even themselves. This is the secret that the elite and the truly powerful have always known. To be a whole human being, you must integrate your inner monster, not pretend it doesn't exist. If you cannot be cruel, you cannot be kind. You can only be pleasant. And pleasantness is a thin veneer that cracks under the slightest pressure. The good person who hasn't faced their own capacity for evil is a ticking bomb of cognitive dissonance. They will gaslight themselves and everyone around them to maintain the illusion of their purity. They will commit sins of omission, standing by silently while injustice occurs because getting involved might ruin their reputation or disturb their peace. Their inaction is a form of violence, masked by the excuse of being a peaceful person. As we move towards the final secret, we must look at the role of the scapegoat. Every good society needs one. To maintain the illusion of collective purity, the good people must find someone to project their shared shadow onto. This is why cancel culture and public shaming feel so intoxicating. It's not about justice, it's about the relief of being on the side of the mob. By pointing the finger at the evildoer, the good person feels a rush of moral superiority. They are, for a brief moment, cleansed of their own sins. This is the dark high of the virtuous, the pleasure of hurting someone while feeling like you're doing the world a favor. The ultimate truth, the final secret that separates the masters of psychology from the masses, is this. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who wants to be perfect. Perfection is a denial of humanity. To be human is to be flawed, to be messy, and to possess a capacity for darkness. Those who seek perfection are actually seeking a state of total control, both on themselves and on you. Their goodness is a rigid cage, and they will try to force you into it with them. If you refuse, they become the enemy of their perfection, and there is no one more ruthless than a saint who thinks they are being held back by a sinner. The person you should trust is not the good person, but the dangerous person who has their darkness under a leash. This is the person who knows exactly how much damage they could do and chooses every single day not to do it. They don't have a mask to protect, they have a character to uphold. They don't need your validation of their virtue because they have already faced their own demons in the dark. They are dangerous because they are honest. And in a world built on the lies of the virtuous, honesty is the most lethal weapon of all. As you look into the mirror, ask yourself, are you actually good or are you just afraid? Have you chosen your path or are you just following the fence because you're too weak to jump it? The moment you realize that you are capable of everything you despise in others is the moment you finally become a real person. Until then, you are just a character in a play, acting out a script of goodness that you didn't write.
The world isn't threatened by those who know they are monsters. It is threatened by those who are convinced they are angels, for they are the ones who will burn the world down to keep their robes white. It's time to stop trying to be good and start trying to be whole, because the most dangerous thing you can do is believe the lie of your own innocence. This realization is the beginning of true power, a secret that few ever grasp, yet it remains hidden in plain sight. Starting with the reality that imagine a man who has never committed a crime, who smiles at his neighbors, and who follows every rule society has ever written.